This is my opportunity to escape from behind the podium for just a little bit. And so coming out today to talk about what's been going on with MITRE ATT&CK. And so just, what's been happening lately, what's coming in the future, and tee up a few things that are actually coming for the rest of it. And so you've seen a theme a little bit already on the 10th birthday, 10th anniversary, but it all started with a spreadsheet. In fact, it started with this spreadsheet called the TTP chart. It wasn't called ATT&CK, didn't have a particularly creative name, created by my office mate, Blake Strom. And so, Blake created this initial spreadsheet, sent it around. And so, if you got really good eyesight, you might notice this spreadsheet has two tabs, persistence and lateral movement. We look at it more like a normal attack matrix these days. That's what was in lateral movement. It was completely empty. So, very, very early beginnings we finally dug up this year. This has never been seen in public before. And so he brought in Brad Crawford, Eric Sheasley, Jen Miller-Osborne, and worked with them over subsequent weeks to build and build until they had something that looks like what eventually came out in 2015 to the public. Now, Eric Sheasley, we were talking about last night, creating the backronym ATT&CK. At one point in time, he did a talk submission that had periods in it. We ditched the acronym back in 2018. And we're going to have that original group back up on stage tomorrow to talk about probably this and other similar stories. I hope you'll all come back to join them. The panel is going to be moderated by ATT&CK alumna, Katie Nichols. But really excited to be seeing that tomorrow. Who am I other than Blake's former office mate? I lead ATT&CK today. I took it over from Blake about 3.5 years ago now. I've been with MITRE for a long time, about 15 years now. My personal focus is mainly on threat intelligence and cyber deception, and yes, it really is. I've been in the trenches before. I've been a defender in security operations centers, as well as a threat intel analyst. And I've been involved with ATT&CK. I gathered a lot of the data that team was using to build it back before it was ATT&CK without ampersand. Also scuba diver, and as Runa sort of mentioned, that has been slowly leaking into some of my ATT&CK work. It's something Runa and I have chatted about a lot. We have the organizers of B-Sides Cayman Islands here today. Not totally coincidental with my interest in scuba diving. And so actually dive into the meat. Since we called this talk for the past several years, the state of the attack, I feel like I need to kick off by saying, MITRE ATT&CK remains strong. I'm the only one here on stage right now, but there are 40 MITRE staff who contribute in some way to the framework behind the scenes. Now, none of them are full-time on the project. They're actually pieces of their time as they actually work on other MITRE programs, both internally and for the government. And so I also have a number of leads that lead various teams on ATT&CK that make all of this possible. And most of them are here in the space. I encourage you to meet them over the next couple days. First up, you've already seen on stage, my deputy and enterprise lead, Jamie Williams. Within enterprise, we have Mac and Linux as a team, so led by Kat Self, who people are going to be seeing over the break who are with us virtually. Our cloud space is led by Casey Nur. And then we have our other domains, so other matrices within ATT&CK. We have ATT&CK for industrial control systems run by Jake Steele. ATT&CK for mobile run by Jason Ashmo. But we have a couple cross-cutting teams too and leads. We have our defenses lead, Lex Crumpton, who's in charge of detections, mitigations, data sources, across all of the various matrices. Our software development lead, Jared Ondrachek. Our outreach lead, who focuses on our materials for people to be able to better use ATT&CK, as well as editor-in-chief of our blog, Amy Robertson. and who is sending out tweets right now. And our acting threat intelligence lead, Mike Hartley, based in charge of group software and campaigns. It's been a little while since we last met in here. Last ATT&CKcon was a little bit of a weird timing. We meant to hold it in 2021, delayed by COVID. And so we've had 3 releases now since the last time we were together, version 11, 12, and 13. In fact, we're actually right on the cusp of release. We've already locked in and finished ATT&CK version 14. We just need to finish writing the release notes, waiting for Beyond. But yeah, so Halloween next week, we're going to have another version of ATT&CK. But getting into just a little bit of what's been going on. I'm going to be talking mostly about features for the rest of this talk, but the reality is the bulk of the actual work we do on ATT&CK is adding to and maintaining the existing framework, staying within the structures we have today. And so we've updated hundreds and hundreds of techniques and sub-techniques in this time. Been adding to the groups and campaigns of ATT&CK as well as its pieces of software. And so while I'm talking about the features, this is really the bulk of my team's work. It's actually seeing the contributions from you and working on them, getting them back to you, and getting them into the framework. It's also quite a bit of work to put this conference on. And so ATT&CK works with a terrific team from MITRE Strategic Events Organization, communications, external communications, who make all the logistics work or making us just look good here today. It's why we've got great graphics and production putting this together. My team works on the content you see on stage, though. So this year we ran a CFP all the way back in May. We had 79 submissions. And like is true for a lot of other conferences, y'all are procrastinators. 66 of you submitted in the final week. This is nerve-wracking as a conference organizer. You see the CFP system empty, 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 and then 47% in the last day. And 13% of you in the final hour. I actually know at least one of those final hour submissions was accepted too, so I guess it did pay off. It is also actually a pretty hard conference to get into. This year we had a 22% acceptance rate. That's close to where it's been before. And we have a 6-person program committee within external members as well, who judge the submissions blind. They don't know who submitted it or what company it's coming from as they do. So what are some of the pieces, though, that have gone into ATT&CK? First I want to talk about was structured detections and enterprise. If you go back a little bit, go back to ATT&CK's first public release. Attack detections were these blobs of text that described a strategy for being able to detect a given technique. And so we decided to break those down a little bit over the past year. And so we tied each part of the detections to data sources and components. What is it you need to collect to be able to see a given technique? And then into more digestible chunks as you're going along. We've done a lot of restructuring in ATT&CK for industrial control systems, the biggest piece being that it actually finally joined our website. ATT&CK for ICS was our final throwback media wiki site. For those of you who've been around with ATT&CK for a long, long time, ATT&CK used to be on MediaWiki. It very much looked like it. And ICS sort of had that nostalgic flavor to it. Why is that important, though? It means that ICS is now a part of all of the resources that you sort of expect with ATT&CK. It's in sticks, it's in the website. And so all of the tools that work with enterprise now fully work with ICS. Other groups and software have also been integrated into the website. And a lot of the theme for ATT&CK for ICS is movement towards parity with enterprise. So talk about in a bit some features they're doing that are special to ICS, but they're also adopting things that we've already done in the enterprise framework. Mobile's a fairly similar theme. So we are continuing to add features that we've added first to Attack for Enterprise and bring them into the mobile environment. Mobile's kind of a special place. It's harder to do some of your own detections. You don't have as much visibility and control. And so it is going to be a bit of a different place. Mobile did sub-techniques last year, and so it's now structured the same as Attack for Enterprise. If you're tracking carefully, you'll notice that that means that the one framework that's not using sub-techniques yet is Attack for ICS. And so you probably can guess something that's on Jake's roadmap now. So they also added data sources in version 13. We're trying to get better on helping people defend in the mobile space and not just telling them what's going on. And so this is going to continue over time. In the CTI space, we added something called campaigns. So threat groups in Attack, or just groups, have always been these big monolithic threat groups that are over long periods of time and had to have a name given to them by somebody from the outside. We didn't name groups ourselves. And so that limited some what we were able to actually track on. So we introduced campaigns, which are a threat cluster that is over a distinct period of time that doesn't have to have a name. And this is letting us do things like breakdown groups. Take a group like APT 28 or 29 that takes place over a super long period of time and break out eras for it. It lets us add on cluster reporting into Attack. If we see a report that is doing some really great adversary behavior but never names it, and it's a one-off, this is a structure that lets us add it. Something we're also struggling with is dealing with some of it's complicated relationships in ransomware as a service. And this is an opportunity for us to be able to work with those better. This is something that's ongoing. We are adding new campaigns with each new version of Attack that comes out. So Blake Strom started using this slide a long time ago, and it was vaguely readable back then. But a lot of you have contributed to Attack, and it's just continued to grow and grow. So there are actually 468 organizations and individuals now on this slide. It's actually been a fairly steady growth the last several years. We hear from around 150 people each year. I actually have taken a peek at where we think 2023 is going to end up. Contributors is one of the last things that freeze on the release. But it looks like a fairly similar number in this year as well. And so, the font size on this slide just continues to drop and drop. We are now way below Katie Nichols' suggested limit of 20-point fonts. We're now down to 4. And so I'm sorry, Katie. But thank you to all of you who are part of this, who are contributing it. It's why we're able to keep up with a lot of these activities. So that's the past. What about the future? And so we're continuing to move forward, and I'm going to get into a little bit about what's coming with Attack. Now, I'm going to talk about a couple specific areas myself, but we also have what we're calling Attack updates queued over the next 2 days, where a couple members of my team are going to be talking about what's coming in their specific areas. So I'll tee those up, but I don't really want to ruin their thunder either. I showed you the structured detections, but we're keeping going in this space. Something we've noticed is that our sort of high-level detections were sometimes hard for less resourced organizations to be able to leverage. We're describing a strategy, but you sort of had to understand where you were going, know what different event IDs you were digging into almost ahead of time to be able to leverage some of this advice. It was a little bit too tough to use. And so we're enhancing our detection text. We did all this work to shrink down our various detections, and so now we're sort of blowing them back up again. And so this comes in two major ways. The first is something that we've called internally detection notes. So this is getting into some of the strategies that you can take, specific tools you may be able to use, open source or free, to be able to see it, specific event IDs, and talking about some things that might happen doing analytics with this given technique. ATT&CK had a sister site that we also control for quite a while called the Cyber Analytics Repository. It's actually older than ATT&CK. It's been out in public, I think, since 2013 now. And it's got lots of different analytics. Some of them are getting a bit stale. But we've been pulling back content from CAR, and as well as creating new analytics and bringing them straight into ATT&CK. So something we've seen is that I know there are some big fans of CAR here. A lot of you have never seen it before. Not a ton of people visit that site. And so we're trying to actually get the analytics in a place that people are more likely to come. Now, we did all this work structuring detections, getting them down, and now we're doing this again. And so one of the things we're working on over the next year is thinking hard about how do we want to structure this kind of data? How do we want to pull this out and collect it in a reasonable way? Mobile. So we've been hearing a theme over the past several months with requests we've gotten on mobile, or requests we've been getting in general on technique to add. And so a lot of you have tried to contribute quishing and smishing lately. Don't like the names, but yeah, it's been a bit of a flood. Even have a lightning talk telling us that we absolutely need to add this to ATT&CK. And so we sort of are. It's kind of inarguable that the place that scanning QR codes and receiving SMSs happens is mobile. And mobile is not the same domain as enterprise, where a lot of you are asking us to do this. Now, we understand that these activities are parts of enterprise intrusions now. And so we're looking at how to better connect things together. But mobile is adding phishing, and phishing will indeed cover the scope of SMS and QR codes. And so one of the piece of work we have cut out for us with mobile is looking at how do we make it better for people to go back and forth between mobile and enterprise. It's a bit of a broken record. We keep saying Linux, but it is still a focus area for us. We've added to Linux over our past several releases, but it is still something we're looking to do more on. And so a lot of you might not see Linux in your daily lives. This is probably still not the year of Linux on the desktop. However, you're using it daily. It's used heavily in containers, cloud, embedded devices, network appliances. It's running in my toaster and my speaker at home, and it's probably running in yours too. Linux systems do get mentioned in people talking about intrusions. So this isn't a case where we're not sure if it's underreported or not. We know it's underreported. We see it reports all the time saying, adversary got into the C2 node, adversary got into this embedded thing. We know it's Linux, and we have no details of what the behaviors actually were. So it's an incredibly challenging platform for us for ATT&CK. And so we're looking for information from all of you. We're happy to sign NDAs. We don't have to say who it was who contributed to us. Our philosophy paper actually gets into some of where our lines are for this space. And so we're happy to partner with people on this, or if you want to work with us a lot more openly, we have places like our Linux ATT&CK channel in our Slack, the same one that we're using for the Q&A for this conference. So please, if you're seeing activity in the Linux space, come talk to us. We are very interested. So a little bit more quickly, wanted to get into some of the presentations we have coming up from other members of my team, not just me being up here talking to you. The first is going to be on industrial control systems. So today at 1:30, our ICS lead, Jake Steele, is going to be talking about some of what's been going on, some of what's coming in the ICS space. We're about to add into attack assets, so where we're getting into a lot finer grained devices and operating systems. ICS space is a bit different. There's a lot more variety. So it is a bit of a different space than attack's existing platforms. Attack produces a lot of open source software. So later this afternoon, our software development lead, Jared Ondrachek, is going to be talking about a bunch of Attack's various open source projects. So there aren't a lot of places that build tools to maintain Attack. And so we write a lot of our own. We work with the Center for Threat Informed Defense, some of their work too. We produce everything that generates our website, Attack Navigator. And we try to get it all out there in open source so that you can do whatever you want with it. Quishing isn't the only thing that people have been bugging us about for a while on Attack. Attack has scoping. It's quite intentional in a lot of cases. We probably are never going to cover dumpster diving in Attack. And so there are scopes just for us to avoid Attack getting even bigger and more unmanageable than it is today. And so Patrick's going to be talking about some small scope increases that are coming in Attack version 14. But we do recognize that even though there are things we've said no to for a while, sometimes as our adversaries evolve, we need to also. I'm going to leave that as his to reveal tomorrow. A final update is going to be on Attack for Cloud. So, and cloud is different. There's a reason why we have somebody dedicated to watching our cloud space. It's very complicated to defend. The tooling is different. The logs might be behind different licenses. So there's sometimes sparse public reporting where things are going on, but we're not hearing a lot about them. Casey's going to be getting into some thinking on where it might be time for new platforms in cloud too. So it's a space that is evolving a lot more rapidly than some of the other spaces Attack is in. So is it time for some new platforms? So the final thing we have coming up is completely different than sort of these technical spaces. We've had people asking us, companies for years, if there was a way that they could help us out financially in order to keep Attack alive and expand the amount that we are able to do. It actually took us quite a while to figure out if we even could. But we're announcing that we're actually starting to take charitable donations that partnered up with the Center for Threat Informed Defense. This is money that would be directly going towards the Attack project, be within our control, and expand the amount that we are able to do on Attack. There's some parallel programs being launched on this for some other open source projects at MITRE. And so we're not going to be doing a PBS pledge week on this every year. We're not going to be Wikipedia, where suddenly you're going to see a banner on the website. We will be recognizing organizations that do want to help us out above a certain amount, though. So recognition on our website, through social media, as well as the Center for Threat Informed Defense's website. I'm not going to bore you to death talking about money. If you do want to learn more about this, I swear this QR code is more friendly than the one on the mobile slide. And yeah, or try out the bit.ly link that's there. We can share that in the Slack as well. I've intentionally left a good amount of time for questions. Figure that there might be a chance you have them for me. Since I am the first talk doing Q&A, I wanted to make sure people could see the information for our Slack if you haven't gotten it through some other channel. If you're not already in our Slack, that top link it's an invite. It'll get you in. It'll get you into the right channels. If you're already in our Slack, that second link will take you to the main channel for ATT&CKcon 4. Join it, and you'll magically get added to everyone's Q&A. And my Q&A channel is ATT&CKcon 4 by Pennington.
So, like Adam said, we have a couple minutes for questions, and then we'll lead into a break. Just wanted to thank you. It's always one of my favorite talks of the year is just hearing about not only where we're going in the future, but where we came from. Because like Adam said, it's not just MITRE, it's not just the attack team, it really is a community. I mean, just the amount of dedication and persistent, contributions that really keep us, like Adam said, on our toes and aligned with what you're actually seeing and how we can provide the best value, not only to you, but to each other. I am happy to report that at least one person scanned the first mobile QR code. So slides will be available later if you're interested in where that went. Surprise, surprise. But
I promise it's not malware.
It's a good promise. But with that, let's open it up. I think we have about 5 to 6 minutes for some questions. So any takers? Oh, over here.
Kind of curious. So, by the way, Francisco Fernandez over Capital One. We're looking at AI and machine learning technologies. Just kind of wondering why there's two separate frameworks. Attack framework and there's Atlas.
Yep.
Is that like an explicit decision or
So just to repeat for the online audience, the question from Francisco was, is there any method or plan with the split between MITRE ATT&CK and MITRE ATLAS?
Yes. So it actually comes down to different standards. So there are often spaces in cybersecurity where adversary behavior doesn't exist yet. We're interested in thinking about something proactively. So where we know about vulnerabilities, where we know what red teams are able to do, but we're not yet seeing adversaries there. Attack only includes techniques that have been talked about in public already. They're citable. And there is threat intelligence that we're able to use that verifies that some malicious actor has actually done it. So not just a red team, not just a black hat talk, but it's real adversary information. And attack, we think, would be about 10 times the size it is now if we got into more of the realm of the possible, more of the realm of red teaming. AI and ML is a space that adversaries are not really doing much in yet. And so Atlas is able to get out and cover that whole space. They're able to talk about the realm of the possible and the realm of what's going on for having a different scope. And so if over time adversaries move into Atlas's space, we'll probably move into Atlas's space too. And so it's different scopes right now, and you're going to see them sort of apart until then.
And that's an excellent opportunity for another shameless plug for contributions. If you do see things like Adam said in that real adversary operational space, we're more than happy to consider it and see where we can work it in to the knowledge base. Excellent question. Thank you. Saw a couple other heads pop up. Don't be shy. In the middle.
Similar question. So, when I think of my attack, intelligence paper is really designed to target lots of different stakeholders. When you take a look at MITRE ATT&CK, how it can be extended, like another framework, the cyber resiliency engineering framework, CREF. And so, if you are caught and there are consequences, what are the resiliency you should consider as part of your planning process? And so, where are these frameworks? It's an excellent opportunity in the data sets to plug it into our own.
Excellent. Just to repeat for the online audience, basically the question was just pondering the opportunity to merge the various different projects that MITRE participates in, referencing the CREF framework, which is a little bit more resiliency. And this is something we've definitely seen where as you've seen attack grow and kind of branch off into different ideas, more and more ideas kind of come together. I have a couple of thoughts, but I'll
actually,
So I think the best answer I can give you to that is one of the things that helps us keep attack grounded and kind of focused is that specialty. Is we are documenting what we know, what we're good at. We have backgrounds, like Adam said, in deception and CTI and red teaming and threat intelligence, and we're able to create a product and kind of have a very specific scope. Versus, obviously, there's a lot of opportunities, maybe interest, but I feel like if we expand it too much, we might dilute it and maybe lose ourselves in trying to do too much. But then again, I think it's also, to Adam's point earlier about expanding the framework, a little bit of a balance of when we see those opportunities, when we see like a really solid landing place where we can kind of take everything we've done and connect it to something with the same level of quality, we're able to make those steps, but we definitely don't want to overexert ourselves. Because even as we talked about earlier, the team is 40 plus, but we all have, we have to keep that balance of being real world operational people so that we can bring that back to attack. So we definitely don't want to necessarily step on too many toes and try to solve the world one knowledge base at a time. Great question. With that, we probably have time for maybe one quick one. Otherwise, we are going to take a break until the top of the hour. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do a quick one.
Time for two.
One of the things our leadership is very concerned about is AI and machine learning. I know that you said that you had a lot of, you split out your organization into web, mobile, so on and so forth. Is there an intent to make a category specifically for AI and machine learning?
It may be separate, it may be together, but only if adversaries go there. So if adversaries decide not to get into the AI and ML space, because people are really concerned about it, and we know a lot of what they could do with LLMs and other spaces. But yeah, we're going to be watching for sort of what the intelligence looks like and how that shapes up.
I'm guessing for version 14 with all the additional entries, there isn't anything currently that's.
Nope.
The other big point there is we're cautious and mindful of not just building it, but maintaining it. So even if we see an opportunity to grow into that space, is it something that we can sustain with the same level of quality and the same expectations you have about what is MITRE ATT&CK? Perfect timing on that question too, by the way. So just a final note, we're going to take a break until the top of the hour. Feel free to float around, shake hands, meet folks, maybe get a snack. For those online, Kat will be starting her first iteration of the Couch Talks. I think the original guest is Runa. So with that, take a quick break